Good day, Science Geeks. We're going to be doing one of the last podcasts here in the math review unit for both the chemistry and the integrated science kids. Integrated science, you will know this as topic 5. So, we're going to be doing some unit conversions, and I'm going to start off by reminding you that you know from your math class that you are allowed to, anywhere in equation, multiply or divide by 1 and not change anything. So, behold, I show you a mystery. This ratio, 1 foot divided by 12 inches, equals 1. Now, at first glance, you might look at that and say, wait a second, no way does 1 divided by 12 equal 1. But we're going to consider the units on that too. And when we think about the units, this is 1 because I'm sure you understand that 1 foot equals 12 inches. Those two are the same. And anything divided by itself equals 1. So these are the same. Same thing divided by the same thing equals 1. And by the same token, this also equals 1. So we're allowed to multiply by this ratio or this ratio anytime that we want to in a math problem, and that's fine because that's the same as multiplying by 1. However, maybe only one of these would be helpful to us if we were doing a unit conversion, depending on whether we were starting with inches or starting in feet. So let's look at some examples. And before we get into the examples, here's just a copy of your conversion chart that I provided for you in class. You can probably find more conversions out there on the web, but these are the ones, particularly some of the ones that I've bolded here, are ones that we'll use frequently. And so any of these equalities you could turn into one of those two ratios and multiply it by it. So you could pick any of these and you could write it as 1 centimeter over 10 millimeters or 10 millimeters over 1 centimeter and multiply by that ratio. So pick any of these, set it up as a ratio, and you're good to go. So we're going to start off simple here with centimeters to inches. Now some of you guys might say, Mr. Edwards, this is pretty straightforward. I kind of have a good sense about what I want my answer to be. I can do this in my head, and that's because you're pretty familiar with centimeters and inches, and you probably know that inches are bigger than centimeters, so you should expect your answer to get smaller, and that would serve as a clue if you did something wrong. That said, there'll be conversions that we'll be doing later on, particularly when we get into chemical units, say moles, that you probably don't have an intuitive sense whether you should be getting larger or smaller. So I want to teach you a method here, maybe overkill more than necessary to do these kind of conversions, but it'll be a foolproof method for you to use when it comes to chemistry conversions that you're not as familiar with. And it's dimensional analysis, and you can set it up as kind of fractions in parentheses, but I like the railroad track method. So whatever you're starting with is going to go in this top box here. There may or may not be anything in the bottom box. If it really annoys you to have nothing down there, you can put a 1, but that's not absolutely necessary. And the nice thing about this is whatever you start with, in this case centimeters, and we understand that we want to get rid of centimeters, that unit needs to appear down here so that we can cancel those out and convert it to whatever unit we put up here. So I'm going to check on my conversion chart for something that uses centimeters and inches. And indeed what I find on my conversion chart is I find that 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. So in one of the boxes I'm going to put 1 inch, and one of the boxes I'm going to put 2.54. I have centimeters on the top, so that forces me to put the 2.54 centimeters on the bottom and the 1 inch on the top, and I'm doing that so that I can cancel out my centimeters. When it comes to calculating, multiply by everything on the top, divide by everything on the bottom. This is just a one step, so 50 divided by 2.54, and I get 19.69 inches as my answer. Okay, pretty simple. One step, you could find the unit that you were given and the unit that you wanted in one conversion factor, so just one step. Not always going to be that. So there might be some conversion charts out there that are really detailed that would have a direct conversion between yards and kilometers, but probably few and far between. I know the one that I provided for you certainly doesn't have it. So I'm going to have to develop a plan on this one because it's going to be more than one step. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find something that uses the unit that I was given. Probably the thing on there that you're going to go for. I believe the only thing that uses yards is the one that everybody's familiar with. 1 yard equals 3 feet. Now, I've got several different options to go from feet to kilometers. You could convert feet into a couple different things and then convert those into kilometers. What I'm going to choose to do is, I found this relationship. 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. And I'm selecting that because I also found that 1 mile equals 1.61 kilometers on my conversion chart. So my plan is going to be convert yards to feet, feet to miles, miles to kilometers. So now I'm going to set this up. I'm going to put my given in my first box. And I'm going to take the conversion factor that uses yards, my current unit. I'm going to set that up with yards on the bottom, 3 feet on the top, so that my yards can cancel. I'm not going to do any calculations at this step. I'm just going to get everything set up, calculate at the end. I've got feet now. If I were to stop, it would tell me how many feet are in 200 yards. I don't want that. I want kilometers. So I'm going to cancel out my feet, 5,280 feet in 1 mile. Feet are gone. If I stopped now, I would have miles. Getting there, almost to what I want, which is kilometers. So I'm going to use my last conversion factor. The 1 mile goes on the bottom, and the 1.61 kilometers goes on the top. Cancels out miles. And now the only unit that is remaining is kilometers, which is what I want. So I know that I'm good to calculate. Some students sort of calculate along the way. You can do that, but it often leads some to make some silly mistakes on how they set this up. So I would prefer that you set up all of your conversions until you get to the unit that you're looking for and then calculate at the end. So I'm going to multiply everything on the top, 200 times 3 times, well, you don't really have to multiply by 1, times 1.61. And then divide by everything that's on the bottom. The only thing that's not a 1 on the bottom is going to be 5,280. So in my calculator, 200 times 3 times 1.61, hit enter, divide by 5,280, hit enter, and I get my answer, which is 0.183 kilometers. Okay? All right, moving on here. You may see some units that have exponents on them. These are cubic units, which are units of volume, because what we're saying here is I have a cube and it is 1 inch on every side, and that's a unit of volume. And same thing for centimeters cubed. I picked these. One of the guys that I ride motorcycles with, he's a big Harley guy, and I've got some, Jap bike that he's afraid to be seen with. His engine is expressed in, this big whopper Harley engine is expressed in good old American units of inches cubed, and I've got the Japanese metric bike whose engine displacement is listed in cubic centimeters. So need to compare our two bikes here. I'm going to have to convert. So I have 103 inches cubed. And like on the previous one, what I found, my relationship between inches and centimeters was 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. And so my 1 inch is going to go on the bottom, my 2.54 centimeters is going to go on the top. However, if I do this, an inch cubed divided by 1 inch, that's only going to cancel out 1 of my inches cubed. So I would now have the inches squared left over times centimeters. So I'm not done. Since I have inches cubed, I actually need to repeat this step 2 more times for a total of, I got lazy there, forgot to write that 4, for a total of 3 times, so that I cancel out all of my inches, and now I'm left with centimeter times a centimeter times a centimeter, which is centimeters cubed, what I wanted. And that gets a grand total, 103 times 2.54 times 2.54 times 2.54, gets me a grand total of 1,688 centimeters cubed. Just for comparison, my lowly Jap bike, which Fred was always ashamed to be seen with, is a pitying 600 centimeters cubed. So now that you've seen that, if you're dealing with area, which will be a unit squared, you would only have to do this conversion twice. Or if you want to save yourself some writing, you'd see that this is centimeter times a centimeter times a centimeter. So that's centimeters cubed, and it's 2.54, 2.54, 2.54. So that's 2.54 cubed. So you could do this all in one step. 2.54 cubed centimeters cubed, 1 cubed, which is still 1, inches cubed, and you would just enter into your calculator 103 times 2.54 cubed divided by 1 cubed, which is 1, and you would still get the same thing. So you can do that to save you a little bit of writing. All right, now remember in the first example I said you don't always have a number in the bottom, but when we have units like speed or anything with a per miles per hour, meters per second, you are going to have something in the bottom of that. So let's look at this, 55 miles per hour. The students who correctly set up their first box with whatever is on the bottom of that division line, on the bottom of this division line, are much more likely to get this correct than students who write it miles/hour in this top box. And we've got 2 units that we need to convert with this. We need to convert our distance unit, miles, into meters, and we also need to convert the time unit, hours, into seconds. So I want to develop a plan for that. I'm going to use 1 mile equals 1.61 kilometers from before. I'm also going to use 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. And so that lets me take care of my distance conversion, mile to kilometers, kilometers to meters, which is what I want. I'm also going to need to convert my time. And I'm going to use 1 hour equals 60 minutes, and 1 minute equals 60 seconds. And so that will let me take care of my time, hours to minutes, minutes to seconds. It doesn't really matter which one I do first. Out of habit, I tend to do the distance unit first, so I'm going to put the 1 mile on the bottom and the 1.61 kilometers on the top. Cancel my miles. And now 1,000 meters per 1 km. Cancel my km. If I stopped now, my unit would be meters per hour. Don't want meters per hour, I want meters per second. So now I'm going to do my time conversion. And so here's the key to having the hours on the bottom, to making sure it's successful. To cancel out the hours here, I need to have 1 hour, 60 minutes here. Hours now cancel. And to cancel my minutes, I need 1 minute, 60 seconds here to cancel my minutes. Now, I have 2 units remaining, meters over seconds, which is what I want. So now I'm good to calculate. I want to enter 55 times 1.61 times 1,000, hit enter, divided by 60, hit enter, and my final answer is going to be 24.6 meters per second. Let's do one more of these kind of combined 2-unit problems, and this is going to be a nasty one because it involves our cubic units too. So these are density units, mass per unit volume. Pounds are a weight, but that's just the failure of English units to not have a convenient mass unit. So weight per unit volume. So I'm going to say 2.75 grams per centimeter cubed. And I'm going to need to do the following conversions. I'm going to need to do 1 kg equals 1,000 grams, and 1 kg equals 2.204 pounds. So that takes care of my mass unit, grams to kilograms, kilograms to pounds. And my volume unit, we already discussed that 1 inch cubed, 1 inch cubed equals 2.54 cubed centimeters cubed. So I'm doing this the short way without having to write 2.54, 2.54, 2.54. I'm just going to write 2.54 cubed. And now I'm going to do 1 cubed foot cubed equals 12 cubed inches cubed. And so that takes care of me having to do 12 times 12 times 12 to convert my inches into feet. So I can take care of that all at once. All right, so I have grams, so I'm going to put 1,000 grams per 1 kilogram. 1 kilogram, 2.204 pounds. Grams cancel, kilograms cancel, leaves me with pounds. Right now it'd be pounds per cubic centimeter. So now I'm going to say 2.54 cubed centimeters cubed over 1 cubed inch cubed. And I'm writing the cubed on both of those to remind me that when I enter this into my calculator, it's not times 2.54, it's times 2.54 cubed, or 2.54, 2.54, 2.54. And lastly, let me scroll over a little bit here, running low on room, is going to be my inches cubed to foot cubed. So 12 cubed inches cubed for 1 cubed foot cubed. And so now centimeters cubed cancels. Inches cubed cancels, and that leaves me, the units that are left are pounds over foot cubed. So what I need to enter into my calculator, 2.75 times 2.204 times 2.54 cubed times 12 cubed divided by 1,000. And so that gets me a final answer of 171.63 pounds per foot cubed. Whew, that was a long one. All right, thanks guys. Hope this helps for unit conversions.